focus remains on ensuring the American people are vaccinated, and we, of course, remain open to a range of options of helping and being a part of the global community moving forward. But that remains our first focus.
So there will be no export before the end of the American
We exported
campaign.
some doses of AstraZeneca to Canada and Mexico, so no export. We obviously will consider a range of options, but our focus remains on vaccinating the adult Americans in this country. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. We reported earlier today that Senator Joe Manchin has privately expressed to some co-sponsors of the Equality Act that he is not yet on board with voting for that legislation, which obviously makes his path to breaking the filibuster even more difficult. If that ends up happening, if it ends up being thwarted by the filibuster, has President Biden given any thought to considering support for the Fairness for All Act, which is being floated as sort of a compromise measure by moderate Republicans?
I'd have to check with our legislative team on that. It's a great question. I can follow up with you after the briefing.
I do like sort of follow up.
Go ahead.
Because some community leaders that I've spoken with about the Fairness for All Act have pointed to specific carve-outs, like allowing some businesses with fewer than 15 employees to deny service to someone for being LGBT, as being really tough pills to swallow. Would he commit, or could this administration commit at this point, to not signing legislation that would create carve-outs like that?
I think the president supports the Equality Act. He's been clear about that. I don't think I'm going to get too far ahead down the rabbit hole of this while it's still being negotiated through Congress. Go ahead in the back.
So thank you, Jen, by the way. The fourth key element in the American Jobs Plan is invest in R&D. And one of that in there is bringing critical supply chains back to the United States. What specific incentives is the administration going to give companies? Are we talking about tax breaks, direct payments, and then would there be disincentives, meaning tariffs put on items that are not brought back, or critical supply chains that are not brought back?
It's a really great question. I know there's a supply chain kind of meeting coming up that is being hosted by our NAC director and our Jake Sullivan, who's our national security advisor, where I'm sure they'll discuss a range of issues. And I'm sure this will be a discussion with members of Congress as they're engaging with our jobs cabinet. So it sounds like there's more to discuss on this topic.
So you don't know if it's tax incentives at this point?
I'm sure I can get you more specifics on it after the briefing.
One other subject. In Georgia, talking about the voting bill that was just signed from the governor, community organizers have threatened boycotts on big companies like Delta, Coca-Cola, Home Depot, in part from some of the information that's come from the president. In his last news conference, he said that the bill requires voting to end early at 5 p.m. And you've said, and some others said, that words matter. The bill actually standardizes voting hours by counties and adds Saturdays and Sundays voting, and it also allows extended hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So is there going to be a correction issue?
It standardizes the ending of voting every day at 5, right? It just gives options?
7 to 7 is what
it gives options to expand it, right? But it standardizes it at 5. It also makes it so that outside groups can't provide water or food to people in line, right? It makes it more difficult to absentee vote. Are those things all correct?
Voting on the day of is 7 to 7, and early voting can standardize adding Saturday and Sunday. So my question is the tone going to change out of the White House? Or
the tone for a bill that limits voting access and makes it more difficult for people to engage in voting in Georgia?
No, that's actually not what the governor of Georgia has said.
Well, I think that is not based in fact what the governor of Georgia has said. So no, our tone is not changing. We have concerns about the specific components of the package, including the fact that it makes it harder and more difficult for people to vote by limiting absentee options, by making it not viable, not possible for people to provide water to people who are in line, by not standardizing longer hours. So if you're making it harder to vote, no, we don't support that. Go ahead.
Quick one. Is the president considering giving an address, a joint session of Congress near the 100-day mark?
He is definitely considering giving a joint session address. I can't wait till we finally announce this because I know you all really want a date. We're working with leaders in Congress to finalize that. I just don't have a date quite yet for you.
Gotcha. And then a quick follow-up. Why haven't refugee flights continued at this point? Last month, The president did announce that he intended to raise the refugee cap before the typical, end of the fiscal year
Yeah.
where it traditionally happens. That hasn't seemed to happen yet. Why haven't those flights continued?
He remains committed, but I don't have an update on the timing of the flights.
Does it have anything to do with the fact that resources are going towards the border at this time, or?
No, it's not related to that, no.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, everyone.